bus is way slower than the scheduled thing. It's like actually because the schedule is written in like ideal time, but the buses move in real time.
LA doesn't work like that. Yeah.
So instead of it being 1 hour, it's going to take about 2 hours plus to get there, and so he starts worrying about making it to the show, and he keeps kind of falling asleep, and I just keep talking away, and people keep looking at me with evil eye, but I'm like, I don't care, I'm getting a cover, and I just like keep talking away, and then like and then we got to the show, or we got to the station, and you made it on time, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I made it thanks to the train getting me back, but the thing was that when I'm listening to the recording finally yesterday, or the day before, I'm like, God, there's like all this noise from the bus, and I'm like, what the hell's that like weird grunting noise?
Oh no!
And it's myself blocking myself out, unable to hear because of my own snoring. And so I write Scott at like 7 a.m. like, hey Scott, could you let me re-interview you, please? This is going to take fucking forever to like transcribe.
I heard Barbara.
And then he's like, yeah, well, I'll talk to you after I get out of the bathroom. And I'm like, oh, really? And so he's like, what do you want? You're asking for an interview at 7 a.m.? So,
Barbara Walters did the same thing.
Meanwhile, on that bus ride, like no one knows that we're doing an interview. All they see is this self-indulgent, like asshole talking about himself, talking all crazy stuff. Maybe he's like autistic, but
functional.
Like, yeah, and just like Rain Man on buses,
on the spectrum.
and harassing this poor businessman who's just trying to get some sleep at the end of a long day. And then your tape recorder didn't work the first time you asked the question, so I actually did that 3 times. And then you ask it today, and I forgot the question. It's like
I know it's like Groundhog Day of interviews.
It's like Frost Nixon. This is great.
So Katya, do you have any favorite stories of either falling asleep or getting hopelessly lost on the bus?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
From my first year, 15 years ago when I moved here, and if you remember, we didn't have the iPhones, right? So we had to print everything out. And at the time, I didn't have a work permit, so I was participating in all kinds of focus groups or like medical trials or whatever. So one time, I was supposed to go for medical trial on Washington Boulevard, but I forgot to put the zip code in. So instead of Culver City, I ended up in Montebello.
Oh, wow.
No way, that's horrible.
Yeah, it was horrible because, I don't know the area.
That's awful.
I get out.
That's not horrible.
That's awful. Yeah.
There's good people in Montebello.
Yeah, I get out, and instead of a bunch of small medical buildings, I discover a bunch of warehouses. I'm like, that doesn't sound right.
What kind of medical facility is this?
Yes, and it was a trial that had to do with heart rate or something, so it's supposed to be like a cardiologist's office. This doesn't look like a cardiologist's office.
And it would have been a really high heart rate, too.
Yes.
Well, I was going to say the obvious next question is, so now do you have superpowers?
Yeah.
Yes. But anyways, that was...
Evading the
now,
question.
Sorry. I'm just so into the stories.
No, go for it. Yeah, no, I interrupted it.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm slow switching gears. And yeah, sorry. Anyways, so I look at the number on the warehouse. And I'm like, that's the number from what they told me. So that's maybe it's inside, maybe it's not right here. Anyways, and then I ran into a bunch of guys playing cards. And I'm like, those don't look like cardiologists at all. So I come up looking completely lost. And this guy gets up with a cigarette, comes up to me all like dirty. He probably just did car repairs. And he said, hey, your dad just called us. I'm like, what? And they're like, you came to pick up your car, right? And back then, like, my English was good, but maybe my comprehension wasn't great, and he had a little bit of accent. And I was like, what? And he says, look, you just pay $500 and you can pick the car up. Your dad called us. He said, he approves you for doing that. I'm like, I'm here for a medical trial. And they're like, what? Now they have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm like, cardiologists, medical trials? They're like, no idea what you're talking about. And then they're like, are you picking your car up or not? I said, this is not my car. I don't have a car. I don't have a driver's license. I don't know how to drive. I'm looking for a cardiologist's office. They're like, what's the zip code? I'm like, what's the zip code? I have no idea. They're like, what city do you need? I say, Culver City. They're like, this is Montebello. This is Washington Boulevard, but the other part of it. I'm like,
that's
shit.
so far away, too.
Yeah. Anyway, so I called the medical office and they said, are you crazy? We are actually like 20 miles away from you. We'll reschedule you for some other day. So I got on the bus.
And by the way, what's your heart rate right now?
Yeah. Yeah, I bet my heart rate went up to 150 at the time. But anyway, so that day the medical trial didn't happen. I got on the bus from Montebello and went home, completely disappointed. But I learned my lesson, and from that time I started looking at zip codes.
Yeah.
Do either of you have an... actually, I'll let Katya lead with this since we were all talking for a while without her. Do you have like a favorite weird moment on a bus? Like the strangest thing you ever saw?
The weirdest?
Or among the strangest, whatever, something like that.
Oh, the weirdest moment on the bus. It's kind of a longish story, but but it involves Russians too.
Uh-oh.
It's like a very unlikely, the front seats, just like 6 of them. Mm-hmm. One day I was in one of them, and next to me there were 2 Russian ladies. I think one of them was a caregiver and the other one was on the spectrum. And right in front of us there was a homeless guy with a huge stinky bag, and next to him there was a person in drag, in very short skirt and like in a G-string that you could see.
Okay.
No.
But anyways, and all attention was on 2 ladies, because the one who was on the spectrum or had some kind of situation going on, she was like rocking and talking really loud in Russian.
Yeah.
And anyways, the person in drag asks, where are you guys from? And the caregiver says, we're Russian. And the person in drag goes, oh my God, you're related to Chechen terrorists or something? Because it was right after Boston bombing. And the lady's like, no, what are you talking about? It's not even the same country. And since they were all talking in this agitated mode, the lady on the spectrum started crying. And she was like, oh, and covering her ears. And the homeless guy was saying like, shut up, you're only making her upset. And then I was trying to say, no, we are not terrorists. So it turns into some kind of like, I don't even know, surrealistic show. But the worst moment of the show was when the person in drag decided, I am leaving this circus. So they get up, and you can see that the end of the back of the skirt is actually inside the G-string, so you can see the bus.
God. That was too much.
Yes, that was too much. So the caregiver started screaming, I don't want to look at your wrinkly ass. Immediately, pull your skirt down. Pull your skirt down. And since she started screaming, the lady on the spectrum started screaming louder too. So she pulled the dentures out of her mouth and threw them on the floor.
Wow. I love that things got too weird for the half-naked transvestite. It's like, I'm out of here.
So the only person...
Who threw the dentures, the transvestite or the spectrum?
No, the lady on the spectrum pulled her dentures out and threw them on the floor.
Wow.
So I was sitting there completely frozen like the rest of the bus. So the only person who preserved any sanity in this situation was the homeless guy. So he actually sat down and he picked up the dentures and then he wiped them on his dirty pants and his dirty shirt. Then he gives them back to the lady and says, here you go. And at this point, the doors opened and the lady or the guy in drag left. And that's when it all started getting back to normal.
Yeah.
But I mean, seriously, how often do you run into a situation like this? So that's by far the most absurd story on an LA bus I've ever been in.
One time I was riding the number 4 bus from La Brea to Spaceland. I had to go, which
is a place, not a universe. It's not that high.
Music Club in Silver Lake. And so anyway, I get on the bus and I'm heading east, and this is before they'd cleaned up Santa Monica Boulevard. So it was a lot of drag streetwalkers, transgender streetwalkers, and 2 of them got on the bus and they were wasted, just really wasted and dirty and wearing just like next to nothing. And one of them, they moved to the back of the bus. And then one of them comes up to the seat directly in front of me, and then she lifts her legs over the two seat rests in front of me like she's like I'm the gynecologist.
Oh, God.
And I get a real front look at those Prince briefs, and I just freak out, and I run to the front of the bus, and I sit down at the front of the bus, and the woman says from her seat, she goes, "Oh, come on, be nice, have fun, oh, come on," and I just look forward, and I just don't look at anything or anyone. And so then about 4 or 5 hours later, after the show, it's like 2 a.m, and I get on the same bus to go home, and it's the same bus driver, and he just starts laughing in my face and goes, "That was the funniest thing I ever saw." And I just walked to my seat.
Well, Scott, we've got a surprise for you. Ladies, come on in. This is your life.
Oh, God.
You know, I find that the more interesting occasions, let's call them, that happen on public transportation are when it becomes a group effort. There's a certain sense of community.
Absolutely.
A couple weeks ago, I was catching the bus on Sunset, right over by the Vista and the Vaughn, Sunset and Virgil, heading west, and I'm a little old school in my belief that headphones on means don't talk to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm
of
civil,
our
so
society.
it really is. But you make allowances for someone who looks. You need directions, something, time. You need a light, whatever. But it constantly. So I'm waiting at the bus stop, and there's a presumably homeless guy who's like trying to get my attention, and I'm already in a shitty mood anyway. So, and I begrudgingly take one of the headphones out, and he's yammering about something. I nod and acknowledge and put the headphone back in, and then he's gesturing again. All right, and he's holding up a $50 bill.
Wow.
And it was kind of a windy day.
Real one?
Yeah, it looked real. I wasn't, getting close enough. And it's like, he's doing a magic trick in mime. So he's very over-exaggerated actions, and he puts it down on the sidewalk. And I kind of get the idea. It's like, oh, okay, you're putting that there, and someone's supposed to walk by and try and pick it up, and you're going to, okay, yeah, I see where this is going.
Don't do that with a 50.
Right. Well, it's... And it's a kind of a windy day. So, then the 50 starts blowing towards the street, and he starts going after it. And I'm thinking like, is this the universe testing me to see if I'm actually going to stop someone from diving into traffic? I don't know. But eventually he realizes that neither I nor the 3 women who are trying to ignore him and happy that he's bothering me for a change, who are on the bus bench, he realizes no one's giving him the attention, so he takes off. Don't know where he goes, don't care, he's not there. That's the important thing.
Did he get the 50?
He left with the 50 without getting hit by any passing traffic. So the bus comes 5 minutes or so later. We all get on the bus. Next stop, Sunset in Vermont. Red line station, so a lot of people getting off the train, getting on the bus there. And turns out, well, this is where he walked to. Sorry, I left out a very important detail. As I'm getting on the bus, I noticed the bus driver has her turtleneck pulled up over her face, like a Bazooka Joe kind of tribute. I don't know what's going on. And I'm thinking, because I'm a gentleman, I let the girls get on the bus ahead of me, as Mom taught me to. And I'm thinking, like, what is up with these girls that the bus driver is? And then I get on the bus and realize, oh, it's not the girls, it's the older, transient-looking gentleman in a wheelchair who has apparently soiled himself repeatedly.
There it is.
It happens.
There it is.
And yeah, so there was that sense of community amongst everyone else on the bus, and of course we're all at the back. But everyone kind of like breathing through their sleeves and looking at each other like, what the hell? Then we get to Sunset in Vermont.
Not exactly Rosa Parks, is he?
No. And he got the front of the bus mostly to himself. But then we go up one stop, and our $50 guy gets on the bus. and sits down in front and starts talking to the guy. And I still had my headphones in, so I didn't know what the actual conversation was. But I really was hoping that it was something like, "Hey, Bill, still shitting yourself? I smell the jar." You know.
I bet that transit man, though, probably enjoyed and appreciated somebody sitting and talking to him, and that.